Steam has taken a very large blow in a court case that spans back years, but this issue is very important because it not only affects our rights as consumers, but we could potentially see a massive change in the way digital game sales work. So back in 2015, Valve was sued by a French consumer organization due to the fact that Steam does not allow users to resell their games. They said that under European laws, you should be allowed to resell dematerialized non-physical goods. So if someone ended up leaving Steam, they could never sell out, in a sense, and they could never make their money back like they could with physical items. With a physical game, you can resell it somewhere like GameStop or even online, and recent rulings by the High Court of Paris said that the company will instead have to reimburse you if you request it, and if Valve were to refuse, they would have to pay a daily fine of 3,000 euros for up to 6 months, which could result in more than €500,000. Valve actually tried to argue that the way that it is more of a subscription service, saying that the way the current system works is that you are buying licenses to specific games under a larger subscription package as opposed to individual copies of a game. But the court found that the way Steam sells games is not part of a subscription package. Valve did say that they do highly disagree with this decision and do plan to appeal it, though there were also other things brought up in this case. It was not just based around this one thing, though this was one of the main points. The other things were that Valve declines any responsibility in case they get hacked and users' personal information gets stolen. Valve claims ownership on the rights of any user-created content uploaded to the platform, and that it is impossible to get the funds back in your Steam wallet if your account is closed, deleted, or banned. This could set a precedent that platform holders must facilitate the ability for users to resell digital games, and this could be very important if any other European countries follow the same attitude as France, and if they did, the United States would most likely be the next in line. We do have a problem with digital goods in general, though. Do you really own the items that you buy? It doesn't seem like we do, because when you lose your account from the platform you purchased on, you lose access to something that you paid for. There is, of course, something that could be added to the terms of service that says you can download your items, such as a game, and save it as a backup for your own purposes, in the way that GOG allows you to. But does that then give you the right to resell it? And if it is DRM free, you could continue to sell it, creating a very competitive reselling market for person-to-person sales, with none of the money touching the developers' pockets. Never mind the developers, because in the case of DRM free, they cannot control the amount of copies that are on the market. And that is something very important to consider in this situation. Currently, even with the DRM-free options that exist on platforms like GOG, you are not allowed to resell those games. Just imagine an infinite number of copies being sold from one person. In a sense, there is a possibility in the world of reselling a digital property that you have to almost end DRM free, because you must have a way to control the amount of copies that exist of something, and you must have a way to designate what is a licensed copy and what isn't. I definitely want to support the idea of consumer protections, but I am concerned for one market in particular, and that is the indie market. If platform holders were obligated to give users the ability to resell digital items like games, it could be detrimental to the indie industry. They not only would have to compete with AAA titles, but imagine if they are undercut every step of the way by players in regards to their own games. It was an industry created on how the digital market currently works. Before this, indie games did not exist to the extent that they do now. They already struggle to grow and need every single purchase that they can get. Law changes could also end up affecting larger developers' bottom lines, though they have had to deal with similar situations in the past, and I'm sure at this point they are anticipating this situation happening. The AAA industry has many more ways to adapt to something like this happening, since they existed before the digital market did. The indie market as we know it today did not, so they will have very limited ways to respond to this happening, if they have any at all, with the very possibility of the indie market just completely collapsing. Some of those ways could be an increase in price, no more $20 indie titles with the chance of finding a hidden gem. They would just have to charge the same as a AAA release to compete with the fact that their games are being resold and that they are not seeing any of the profit. Other ways would be going to companies like Microsoft to get their titles on Game Pass, or going to Epic for the exclusivity deals. I question how this will affect digital storefront sales as well. We have seen digital storefronts from Steam, GOG to Microsoft running constant sales, from weekly ones to holiday ones, and I wonder how this will affect those sales. Will we see less of them to compensate for the losses, or will we see more of them to compete directly against resellers? It's really tough to say. In conclusion, I definitely want to support the idea of this, of consumer protections, but I am also very concerned for a market of games that I love so much. So many unique and incredible titles would have never been able to exist if the market was different, and I would be heartbroken if we could not find a solution for the indie developers in the wake of something like this being implemented into the industry. Valve has already had experience with selling digital items between customers, since there is item selling on Steam. It is not the same system, it does not fit what they actually need, but it is a start for them to figure out how to make a policy like this work out in the end. Ultimately, what the model would be, I cannot say, but it is definitely something that could head in a lot of different directions. But let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below about the situation. Do you foresee a problem with the indie market, or just the digital games market in general? If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and if you did not, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.